Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Pretty Suited Podcast where we discuss personal development through a cultural lens. I am your host, Lauren A. And I'm going to already give a disclaimer and apologize in advance. I am recording this on the 4th of July in the evening. I already contemplated not really doing anything for 4th of July except for maybe, getting a couple pieces of barbecue, and come back home, enjoying a few movies, little Independence Day, all that good stuff. But I decided to go and see some fireworks, downtown. And, that was fun. That was nice. All the good things. And I decided to come back home and say, hey, I'm going to be productive and record an episode because I have not recorded anything in a very long time. So I call myself being a good, content creator. And these people are still at 12:37 sending up fireworks, and it's annoying. So I apologize in advance. If you hear some booms, cackalaking and all the things, see, that's them. So we're just going to have to roll with it, and just be patriotic and all the things, okay? Don't let it distract you from the message. But anyways, like I said, it has been a while, and it's been a while because of a few things. Not because I didn't have anything to say, because, your girl always has something to say. Your girl is always finding some ways to level up. But my own personal development has been going through some things in this past month. I have moved from Atlanta, Georgia to Charlotte, North Carolina, and it has been a frenzy this past couple weeks. Once I was, kind of set to go career-wise, it was just really, really quick. So from getting a place to going through all the onboarding at my job and, finally unpacking some things, I finally unpacked my last box yesterday. So it's really been a whirlwind. So today I want to hone in on something that has been in the conversation. Actually, I had this kind of like set up in my outline 2 weeks ago to record a podcast episode about. And I was just like, I just don't have the time. And 2 weeks later, it is still in the conversation. It is still on the timeline. And that is the discord that is going on social media about my fellow Aquarian, Carisha, aka Young Miami, and this Spin That song. Now, you guys have heard this a million times. It has not been missed that this is the song of the summer. I mean, whether you hate the song, whether you like the song, whether you jam it in your car, whether you despise the song, it does not matter. This is the song of the summer. Every time you go outside, it's playing. Every time you turn on your television, it's playing. Whether it's sports, whether it's an award show, all the things. We just saw her on the BET Awards get a standing ovation for how popular the song is. The girl wasn't even performing. She wasn't even performing. She was just out there presenting an award, and she's still gotten a standing ovation because of how popular the song is. Male or female, it does not matter. It's very popular. And it's very catchy. It's one of those songs where, yes, it's not Queen Latifah's UNITY. Like, you know what I'm saying? However, I think in some weird paradigm, it can be connected. Hear me out before you curse me out. It can be connected in a sense of when we talk about the broader scope of what feminism today looks like. Originally, as we know, feminism was really focused and surrounded and cultivated around the equal rights of women. We know that, whether it was job equality, pay equality, even just the ability to own a bank account. You know what I'm saying? Like really just being able to be independently and live independently outside of the patriarchy or just marriage or just a male presence. That is what it was founded upon, right? That's a whole other conversation of the origin. But today in society, one can argue that it has swung to the other side of the pendulum to the point where women have taken full grasp and unapologetic grasp as to what their independence looks like. Now, scamming and all the things, that's not feminism. And we're not even going to act like it is. But what I'm saying is her unapologetic free speech is a byproduct of what the feminine movement has transcended to. Now, can one argue that that is a negative thing? Absolutely. Absolutely. And that has been the topic of conversation, how we have gone too far, right? And what we could perceive to be as independence and, autonomy and all the things that we are, absolutely acting as men, in the same way that is oppressive as well as, deplorable. But what I will say is this, whether you agree with the lyrics of the song or not, I personally am not a fan of people or persons who decide to steal, rob, kill, or destroy anything. It's not something that I want to champion. It's not something I want to advocate for. Let's be very, very, very clear about that. However, I think what we have seen is the kind of evolution I'm even going to use the word evolution because that could be tricky too. Because I wouldn't say that this is evolved music. What I will say is the growth of the diversity of the types of music that we have, particularly in hip hop, right? When we talk about female rap in particular, there's always been variations. There's been the Missy Elliott's. There's been the Tierra Whacks. There's been the Rhapsodies. There's been the Lauryn Hills. There's been the, Yo-Yos or anybody like that, right? MC Light, Salt and Pepper. There has been variations of what female hip hop looks like. And City Girls has been on the tail end of what I would consider to be the Great Shift. And I'm naming this the Great Shift for several reasons. This is my personal hypothesis. You can agree with it or you cannot agree with it. But I feel, and I think City Girls, when they really started to blow up with that first or second mixtape during COVID, I want to say it was called Girl Code. Yeah, I want to say it was Girl Code and Period. Those two mixtape / albums, I'm not sure what they called them. Those two things I feel like shifted what female hip hop looked like single-handedly. And I'm going to throw that much strength on that. I'm going to say single-handedly, those two albums, particularly Girl Code, shifted what women started to really talk about. Now, I'm not saying that there was no Little Kim. I'm not saying that there was no Foxy Brown, who was very sexually liberated, who was talking about, playing men for their money and, using their sexual activity to get things. Like there was never any kind of, there was always like a taboo kind of shock value when it came to those women in the 90s, right? There was a vast difference between those two women and MC Light and Queen Latifah and Lauryn Hill. So we saw that everybody clutched their pearls when a Little Kim came out or Foxy Brown came out, because they were talking about very exploitative things. And let's not forget about Trina, because Trina was their quote unquote grandmother, right? She was the one from the same area, Miami-Dade County, who unapologetically talked about what she was doing in the bedroom. And let's not forget about Kaya. Same thing. So that particular area was known for that raunchy type of music. And what Carisha and JT did was amplify that times 10. Not necessarily in the sexual rap, because they had that too, but it was really about dogging men to the utmost capacity because they deserved it. Point blank, period. It was use the men with whatever you could do, use them as much as you can, spend their pockets, spend their wallets, get whatever you can from them, and then move on to the next one. That was their message. And we heard that, like I said, in some capacity before, but they amplified that message times 10. It wasn't even really no love. At least in the past, we had some songs from Foxy or from Little Kim that included love in some capacity, right? Where maybe one or two songs talked about how they really was feeling a guy, and, maybe he got killed, or maybe he they broke up, and then she kind of went on her villain quest or whatever the case may be, her origin story. But it was never solely just sex and scamming and using, right? But City Girls kind of amplified that message times 10 and was not sorry about it whatsoever. They even developed a vocabulary that was so extensive, talking about getting flued out and all the things that really permeated the culture because of social media, right? Think about it. We weren't as connected as we were in the 90s because we didn't have social media to really make everybody think the same and act the same. But with social media, the City Girls and the popularity of them, it started to permeate into pretty much every mind and atmosphere of a young woman. And so we kind of adapted some of their phrases, some of their things, and even down to the mentality, some of us. And that brings me to my point of this discord, is the adaptation of the mindset of a city girl, the mindset of what Spin That represents. And people keep arguing. I see it time and time again that, oh my God, I would never do anything like that because I listen to it and I'm a corporate lawyer and I would never do anything like that, or I'm a doctor, or I'm an astrophysicist and I would never scam even though I listen to these songs. And that's all fine and dandy. Neither would I. Let's not get it twisted. I'm not heavily influenced by the songs I listen to. Now, I will pull up to a hospital jamming Gucci, UGK, 8-Ball MJG, and whoever, you know what I'm saying? Very loudly, right? To get myself pumped up for, what I'm getting ready to do for work. And so that doesn't mean I'm going to stand outside and make a play. No, just because I listen to it doesn't mean I'm going to do it. I'm not that heavily influenced by what I'm listening to. However, we cannot negate the fact that music, environment, whatever it is, has frequencies. It has energy. If we want to make it biblical, the devil was the angel of music. So when you feel like you're, hyped up in a party and you want to get loose, get free, or go outside and make some plays and put on a chain, like you have that kind of feeling after you listen to songs. So when you feel that way, how are you saying that you're not influenced by music? That doesn't make any sense. And you, with your grown mind, with your discernment, hopefully, because, you've lived a little bit of a life and you kind of know that that's not real. How are you with your grown self going to say that a child who does not have a fully developed frontal lobe, who does not have the ability to discern between what's right and wrong all the time, who does not have the ability to know who they are, to say that just because they did that, I don't have to do that. How do you think that they're going to react to something like that if they're continuously receiving this message? If that's their favorite song, if that's their favorite album, if this is the same message that they're receiving over and over again, without all the things we just named as adults possess, how do you think that they're going to respond? Of course, they're going to be more susceptible, right? Like that just makes the most sense. And so, even any psychologist will tell you that your environment plays a huge part on, how you think, act, and feel. Now, I'm not saying that every person who will listen to a song about, a murder is going to turn out and do the same thing. But if you don't have a solid foundation, you're more susceptible. Point blank and period. And you can't say just because you won't do it that somebody else won't. That's not how systems work. That's not how marketing works. People are literally in offices, because this could go into another conversation about what is actually being pushed out there. But people are legit in offices every day developing systematic plans. Because I used to be in some of these rooms when it came to healthcare. So I know for a fact that in the music industry, in the film industry, in any other kind of industry where you have to market a product to people, there are people who are sitting in rooms every day thinking about ways to target an audience, for it to be received and consumed and acted on. That's just how it goes. It's behavioral marketing, right? And so, let's just not be so closed-minded and how influential the sound of music and the output of music and the frequency and the rhythm and the energy of music can be. And so I'm not saying that City Girls, is negative. Because don't get it twisted. I was playing the Girl Code album. I was playing the Period album. I was playing, Spin That. It's fun. It's catchy. When you're outside and you're just jamming, you're more so focused on just how it makes you feel in that environment. It's hot. You're at a pool party, or you're just jamming in the car with your friends. It has an energy to it. It's very light. It's very playful. It's very fun. However, what India Ari was kind of referring to, which, she was the one who kind of stepped out there and made it very clear that, she wasn't necessarily not downing Carisha at all, because she made it very clear this is not about her. This is about a community of people who are more susceptible to the ideologies that are negative. Let's not fall victim to that. Let's not consume the things that will make us even more so susceptible to the negativity. And that's all she was saying. And people were down her throat about it. And I feel bad because, if anybody knows India Ari, she was one of those artists that came out during the neo soul era in the early 2000s, who was all about the positivity and the beauty and the influence of Black people. That was her full message. I am not my hair. My brown skin is beautiful. Like, love me. His skin, like all the things. That was her message from the beginning. So this is not far-fetched or left field from somebody like India Ari. And like I said, she was not downing Carisha personally. She was not saying boycott her music. What she was saying was, and I think people wanted to twist and be a little dense because they liked the song so much. But if you actually listen to what she was saying, she wasn't wrong about that. She was saying that let's not fall victim to the things that we are consuming that are negatively being pushed out there on purpose. And if that's the case, if you are going to listen to music like that, because I'm still going to listen to it. That's, the song is fun. I'm a grown woman. I can discern. But if you're going to listen to songs like that, let that not be your only palette. That's all. And I agree with this message. I heard the same sentiment from Dr. Lamont Hill on the Joe Budden podcast. It's the same thing. I agree with, not being so harsh on people just wanting, the community and the culture to be better. However, art is not a monolith, and you cannot say that how this person expresses themselves in an artistic way or a form of fashion, especially if they're doing music and it's, it's not meaning to be malicious towards anyone. And you can't say that they can't express themselves in that way without you kind of downing, the freedom of speech. And so what we need to focus on is variety. And I think that was the difference between now and in the past, is that we just had a little bit more variety. We had Lauryn Hill, we had Missy Elliott, and they were popular. They were on our radio. They were on our countdowns. They were in our faces, right? They were in the stores. And, we had the variety of the type of artists. That way, if you had a palette for this, you can listen to this. If you had a palette for that, you can listen to that. But what we've kind of gone to is how we're just kind of monotone in how we're expressing ourselves as female hip hop artists when it comes to mainstream rap. This new artist who just came out not too long ago, she had that song about her father passing. I thought that was just absolutely artistic. I loved the performance that she had in that song. If anything, she needs to win best rap performance for that song, how she just executed that. But yeah, just different versions, and let that be just as popular as a Spin That. That's what we want. That's what the well-rounded person, that's what they want. I'm pretty sure if India Ari noticed that there was different types of female rap popularized and we just had options, that Spin That wouldn't be a big deal because you don't have to listen to it. But if it's everywhere all the time and all that once, and that's the only thing we have to choose from, then you're kind of just like, okay, what are we doing, guys? Is this it? Is this all we're doing? So yeah, so that was just my 2 cents on this whole topic. I didn't want to harp on anything and just down anyone, because I think that Carisha has every right to, find a hit and make a huge splash for herself after her and JT broke up, and she was able to make a fun record for the summer. Shout out to her. But I also think India Ari has a point. When it comes down to what we're consuming, just kind of spread the love a little bit. So that way it's not just negative message after negative message. And then let's just think about the babies. That's all. Anyways, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, you cannot manifest the life you feel like you don't deserve. So create the life that you want and look to the sky for grace. Bye-bye.
For all that life has in store.